you can use from Dr. Johnny every Sunday at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.org on Studio B, and get the Master Survivor Show Beyond PhD. Because of his military Mar-a-Lago contacts, Dr. Johnny will bring you in-depth intel that you will not hear anywhere else, whether it's from the political arena, outer space, or natural health breakthroughs. Dr. Johnny delivers the goods every week, bringing you hope, health, and happiness, but most important of all, the truth about our world, and providing the tools to help you survive and thrive. So what are you waiting for? Tune in to The Master Survivor Beyond PhD every Sunday at 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Studio B, on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.org.
Do you want to really get to the roots of good health and stay strong for the storms ahead? Then listen to Bridget's Well, Healing with the Elements of Life. Tuesdays, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Time on Studio A, where stories are shared about traditional foods, Chinese medicine, and simple, healthy living skills. Listen to Bridget's Well, Tuesdays, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Time, Studio A, right here on Revolution Radio.
Are you interested in the paranormal, murder mystery, real natural law? Do you enjoy interviews with amazing guests? Then join Crypt Rick every Monday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Revolution Radio. Studio A, freedomslips.com. Crypt Rick's I've Been Thinking. Welcome to the Crypt.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Any commercial advertising you may hear in this program is of the sole discretion and benefit of the host of whose program you are listening to. Revolution Radio does not endorse any commercial products, nor does it accept monetary compensation for on-air advertising of commercial products, nor will it ever. We are and shall remain 100% listener supported. Any product advertising on this program are considered used at higher risk, and Revolution Radio shall not be held liable for any claims or damages received from any product advertised within this program. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
And greetings, Earth Explorers. Welcome to X Squared Radio. I'm your host, Brooks Agnew, coming to you live from an undisclosed location east of the Appalachian Mountains. This is precisely where the past meets the future, and in here the results are always positive. We might go past your imagination a little bit, but have no fear. You will be safely traveling with us as we endeavor to treat, cure, and prevent the disease of ignorance. This is the voice of the revolution, and we are streaming to you live with our great friends at Revolution Radio. We're also streaming to you live on several video platforms, on Rumble and YouTube and Twitch, and XD Live, Truth Refugee, and Foxhole. It'll give you an idea where we're exposed right now. And this is not the last broadcast of the year, but it's the last broadcast before Christmas. So I thought that I would share with you a Christmas message tonight. The chat room is already full. Wow. I don't know how to get to the top of it here. I guess Stanley Mays was the first one in tonight, and Old Dog is here, original Old Dog. Tatanka Dave and Philip Blair is here. Good to see you from YouTube. Merry Christmas to you, sir. East Coast 20, Boy Dogs 2 is here, all the way over on the other side of the country. Let's see. JCW is here. Distant Sight is here. Monterey, that's a new name. Thank you very much for being here tonight. Della Meow is here. 86 Troll, Alm 3, Texas. Tatanka Dave, I think I already said that. Mine Jots is here. That's good. Good to see you. Good to see you, my friend. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I know it's everybody's out Christmas shopping, doing their thing. Truth Refugee is monitoring. Let's see. Oh, Spartan Rogers here. This is good. We can really get started on some stuff now. Mojo Psalms is here. Let's see. M. Record is here. Mark Hovsepian is here. Old Lace, glad to see you. Bayonet is here. Fob Letty. It's all good stuff. Who's on Foxhole tonight? I guess I could tell you. Hold on a second. Pool Dude, Space Cookie, Plant 22, and Fanny is here. Fanny, I'm so glad you're here. Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas to you. So let's see what we can do to get started here. First, let's get a little news out of the way while the rest of the crowd kind of comes in. Uh, yesterday morning, before the sun came up, the pre-dawn hours, there was another seizure of an oil tanker of Venezuela. Working alongside the Department of War, the Coast Guard seized an oil tanker last seen in the terror state of Venezuela. And the United States accused the ship's operators of moving sanctioned crude to fuel narco-terror activity. President Trump is shutting off their money. Officials used a stark warning to traffickers: we will find you and we will stop you. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem released a video on social media showing the U.S. Coast Guard helicopter landing on the deck of the oil tanker and seizing control of the ship. DHS called the seizure a lightning strike operation to seize the motor tanker Centuries. Officials stated the ship was carrying oil subject to U.S. sanctions. U.S. and Venezuelan officials report that the seizure of the Panamanian-flagged Centuries tanker took place in international waters near the coast of Venezuela. The ship was reportedly bound for Asia, possibly China. You know who this is going to hurt. You know who this is going to hurt. NBC News reported on the Venezuelan reaction, and they wrote this. Venezuela's Minister of the Interior, Diosdado Cabello, condemned the operation in a Saturday post on Instagram. The Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela denounces and rejects the theft and hijacking of a new private vessel transporting Venezuelan oil, as well as the forced disappearance of its crew, committed by military personnel of the United States of America in international waters, Cabello said. In a post on social media, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth added to the U.S. actions, writing this. President Trump has been clear. The blockade of sanctioned oil tankers departing from or bound for Venezuela will remain in force until Maduro's criminal enterprise returns every stolen American asset. Close quote. Earlier this month, Breitbart's John Hayward reported that the Trump administration ordered the seizure of another tanker carrying sanctioned Venezuelan oil. This vessel was reportedly headed to Cuba. So that makes 3 ships that have been seized. In a speech where he did not directly respond to the tanker's seizure, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro said in a speech that the Venezuelan military is prepared to break the teeth of the North American empire if necessary. Strong words from Nicolas Maduro on his way out. He knows his days are numbered. The pressure is now on him because he cannot sell billions of dollars in Venezuelan crude, bring the money in, and fund his narco-terrorist operations. And it's not just narco-terrorism, okay? One of the things we also know that Venezuela is involved with, has been involved with, is meddling with our election infrastructure, which I guess you could say meddling with our elections. Because for some reason, the software and the hardware that collects all the voting tallies from the 867 precincts we have in this country, I'm estimating that number, about 867 voting precincts, is collected, tabulated, reported, and analyzed in Venezuela. And evidence is now showing that those numbers are manipulated in order to benefit Democrats, which in essence says that in 2018, 2020, 2022, and 2024, they stole votes from Americans, silencing their voices and replacing Republican votes with Democrat votes, which were fabricated from illegal aliens, dead people, and other sources. Same place that the Somalis got all the names for the kids that they were treating for autism in Minnesota. None of those kids existed. And yet the government was happy to write checks to feed lunches to these cyber kids that never existed and never ate a meal on planet Earth. Billions of dollars stolen from American taxpayers. By the way, Minneapolis was about to have a 6.7% hike in their property taxes. Property owners were going to pay 6.7% more in 2026. And guess what? Minneapolis was sending the property tax money not to the fire department, not to the police, not to road maintenance, not to any of the municipal responsibilities of Minneapolis. No, it was being sent to Al-Shabaab, a terrorist organization in Somalia. And they were about to raise the taxes so they could send even more. Doesn't that make you mad? It makes me mad. It infuriates me. It should infuriate all Minnesotans as well. But I don't hear anything. I don't hear anything from Minnesota news organizations. I don't hear anything from Minnesota citizens coming together, filling the streets with protests, saying, "What the hell are you doing with our tax money?" I don't see any of that. I don't see any social media posts. I don't see any polls. I don't see any movements, no public statements, nobody being interviewed on the news, nothing. What the hell are you doing, Minnesota? Yeah, I get it, Stanley Mays. Our elections are always rigged. After all, both parties pursue the same agenda and can't even pass a budget. I'm with you. I'm with you. It does seem like all the cheating seems to benefit Democrats, though, not Republicans. So if it was all the same party, it would benefit Republicans too, and it wouldn't see anything change, but it doesn't. It doesn't. It clearly doesn't. In fact, about 98% of the news coverage is negative against Republicans and positive toward Democrats. That's a fact. That's a fact. Except here at America Free Radio. All right. Now, just a little bit of science. It turns out And I don't know if you guys have felt this as well. I've kind of felt it, but I've had people come up to me and say, like today, okay, today is the 21st of December. It's the shortest day of the year, right? I mean, this is the winter solstice, right? December 21st, 2025. And we went golfing today in North Carolina. It was 60 degrees today in North Carolina, and the sun was shining. Now, the afternoon was a little 48-ish with overcast, but the point is, it's winter. It's winter. Scientists from UC Berkeley, University of California, Berkeley, have also watched our planet's seasons from space. Yep, they're watching the seasons from space. And the same latitude, which means the distance from the equator to the poles, okay, that's the latitude of Earth. So, like, that's where you get north and south from. Not east and west, but north and south. It doesn't guarantee they'll experience the same seasonal changes at the same time each year. Even regions that are side by side can experience different weather and ecological patterns, sculpting wildly different neighboring habitats. It's similar to how time zones can separate two adjacent spots. But in this case, the boundary is drawn not by man, but by nature. Seasonally, or seasonality, I'm sorry, may often be thought of as a simple rhythm, winter, spring, summer, fall, pretty much the same every year on the same date, right? But our work shows that nature's calendar is far more complex. Biogeographer and lead author Drew Terasaki Hart said this in August when the new map was published. This is especially true in regions where the shape and timing of the typical local seasonal cycles differ dramatically across the landscape. And this can have profound implications for ecology and evolution in these regions. The average seasonal growth cycles of Earth, land-based ecosystems, estimated from 20 years of satellite imagery, say that they've created what they say is the most comprehensive map to date of the seasonal timing of Earth's terrestrial ecosystems. And this new map identifies global regions where seasonal patterns are particularly they're out of sync. They don't make sense. And these asynchronicities often occur in biodiversity hotspots. That is probably no coincidence. More variability in weather patterns can have trickle-down effects, which may drive greater diversity within habitats, fish, birds, migratory animals, plants, and, yes, people. For example, if natural resources in two neighboring habitats are made available at different times of the year, it would shape the ecology and evolution of flora and fauna in each spot. You agree with that, right? It could mean even that a species in one habitat reaches the reproductive season before or after the same species in an adjacent habitat, preventing interbreeding. Across many generations, this can lead to the evolution of two entirely separate species. Now, we kind of see this here in North Carolina. North Carolina, as we go further north, it goes higher in altitude. So, for instance, where I live in Hickory and where I used to live in Concord are about 400 feet difference in altitude. It often snows here when it doesn't snow there. It rains there when it doesn't rain here. And this, even on the same day, and repeatedly season after season, year after year. And what this does to the wildlife is they breed on different cycles. They breed on different cycles. Birds, mammals, they all have different cycles. And so that's why people are kind of feeling confused. There are two cities in Arizona, for instance, Phoenix and Tucson. You know where they are, right? You can find them on a map. These urban hubs, they're only, 100 miles apart, barely 100 miles apart, right? And yet their annual climate rhythms are on entirely different wavelengths. Tucson experiences its highest amount of rainfall during the summer monsoon season, but Phoenix, totally different. It receives most of its rain in January, in the middle of the winter, and this has trickle-down effects on their ecosystems. One intriguing pattern revealed by the new map was that Earth's 5 Mediterranean climate regions, which have mild, wet winters and hot, dry summers, showed forest growth cycles that peaked roughly 2 months after other ecosystems. And this incongruency occurred in places such as California and Chile and South Africa, Southern Australia, and of course, the Mediterranean. If you've been around the Mediterranean, I've been there once over a 2-week period and saw huge diversity in the landscape and how it responded virtually at the same sea level. It even explains the complex geography of coffee harvest seasons in Colombia, a nation where coffee farms separated by a day's drive over the mountains can have reproductive cycles as far out of sync as if they were in opposite hemispheres. Today, many ecological predictions are based on simple models of Earth's seasons, but if we really want to know how the climate crisis will impact our planet and our health, we need to understand variations from place to place, even if they are close by. But I don't think this is a new thing. I think it's probably been going on for a long time. It's just that our ability to communicate across those time zones real time has made us hyper aware of these differences in the climate. We just see it more. And because we see it more, we're more sensitive to it. And that's why you and I are noticing this seasons are kind of jumbled up. They get kind of mixed up. In October, samples from under the sea ice in Central Arctic Ocean and the Eurasian Arctic. There's revealed a community of thriving microbes called the non-cyanobacterial diazotrophs. These are nitrogen-fixing bacteria that don't photosynthesize. They don't make oxygen from sunlight and carbon dioxide. Researchers have not yet shown that these NCDs are fixing nitrogen in the Arctic. If it's true, these microscopic life forms could have a global impact. Absolutely. They found the fringes of Arctic sea ice tend to host more nitrogen-fixing bacteria and higher nitrogen-fixing activity. This suggests that as Arctic ice rapidly melts with climate change, and that happens pretty much every year, most of these NCDs, which feed algae, may proliferate, altering the marine food web and impacting the atmosphere itself. Because as you know, algae, green algae, they make oxygen, a huge amount of oxygen, way, way more than, say, the rainforest. The rainforest doesn't really make much oxygen. It is mostly made up of old, aging vegetation, which does not put out much oxygen. Only new life in green plants puts out high levels of oxygen. It is algae that makes most of the oxygen on the Earth. In fact, it's been proposed that if we really wanted to geoform Mars and put more oxygen into the atmosphere, we would transplant algae to Mars and let it grow. Even in the Arctic areas, even areas without much atmosphere, algae will grow. And over the decades, it will make oxygen, which will change the surface of Mars. If algae production increases, the Arctic Ocean is going to absorb more CO2. That's what algae does. It absorbs CO2, turns it into sugar and oxygen, right? This is one of the ways that we capture CO2 from, say, coal-fired power plants. We make algae beds, we pump the stack gases into the water. The algae takes the CO2 from the stack, turns it into oxygen, and releases it to the atmosphere. If you can get the algae to bloom, that's a challenge in and of itself. You have to control the pH of the water very closely. But not a lot of people know that. I know that, but not a lot of people know that. Um, let's see here. University of Copenhagen marine microbial ecologist, his name is Lasse Riemann, argues that nitrogen fixers in the Arctic need to be incorporated into future climate models because they're the ones that really support microbial algae. As Terasaki Hart explains, climate of conservation models that make blanket assumptions about seasons don't take into account the fullness of our planet's great diversity. We suggest exciting future directions for evolutionary biology, climate change ecology, which is we're just now gathering meaningful data on it where we can make models happen. The models are not accurate because the data is not full. We don't have enough perspective to really make the data be accurate. They do call it a biodiversity research, but that's exactly what it is. It's research. And they're not ready to make predictions yet. But it's a way of looking at the world where it has interesting implications that are way afield of what politics say we need to be concentrating on. So, yeah, Stanley May says, I see Elon Musk becoming the first quadrillionaire sending fertilizer to Mars. Yeah, it could be. It's a very expensive. I don't know what it costs per pound or for kilogram to send something to Mars, but it's horrendously expensive. Horrendously expensive. Hold on a second. Yes, the little helicopter was working on Mars. There's no helicopter on the moon. Just to keep you up to date, mine shots. Let's see here. Lots of good thoughts. Algae, yes, it's a superfood, but only certain kinds of algae. I used to play with saltwater algae. It makes a lot of oxygen, and if you can get it to bloom, which it's kind of temperamental, it responds to water temperature, salinity, the amount of CO2, and also responds to vibrations. I should say, use another word, agitation. So if you stir it up violently, like try to run it through a pump to get the water to circulate, you just piss the algae off, and they'll start making beta carotene instead of chlorophyll. And they turn red, by the way, when they do that. All right. Yeah, I get it, Whitestone. The Bible's a storybook. I get it. But we're going to talk a little bit about reality right now. Less storytelling and more logic and perspective. Yes, there are a lot of people talking about a pole shift. I know Ben Davidson. I've had him on the program. I've had conversations with him. I highly respect his intellect and his space weather website. There are those that have put together convincing, reliable, and repeatable data on what is called a solar nova, not a supernova, but just a solar nova, where all the stars tend to in a synchronous manner, shed all the extra particles that build up on those stars because of gravity. And when that happens, it's kind of a nova event. And when that happens, there's a grand conflagration on the planets that orbit those suns. It can be quite devastating for the side of the planet that's facing the sun at the time that nova happens. Nobody really knows which side of the planet is going to be facing our sun when it happens, but it's estimated that it's going to happen sometime in the next 46 years. And we just know it happens every 11,000 years. Now, we don't know if it's 11,000.0 years or if it's plus or minus, 10%. We don't know. We're looking at um, diffraction grading, as it were, diffraction grading of space. And we're seeing these regular intervals of light and darkness, light and darkness, light and darkness, which indicates that all of the stars are doing it at the same time. That, of course, travels at the speed of light in all directions, and we can see those stratifications, and they're synchronized. So sometime in the next 46 years, this event is supposed to happen. Not going to be a great day for the surface of Earth when it happens, or Mars, or the Moon for that matter. So we should be prepared for when it happens. Prepared. Now let's talk a little bit about Christmas. How many people out there believe that extraterrestrial life that doesn't originate here on Earth, is actually here on Earth? Can I just see a few hands out there? People that believe there is extraterrestrial life on Earth. Okay. Okay. So I'll ask you the next question, which is, let's assume that the majority of people that are listening tonight agree that um, extraterrestrials have discovered Earth and they're here. So the next question is, how long have they been here? Have they been here? Well, see, Charles says no. No extraterrestrial life. Spartan Roger says yes. Boy Dog Stu says yes. Della Meow says yes. Okay, so we have a dichotomy, and that's great. That's great. That's exactly what I want for tonight. But so let's apply some logic. Earth is a tiny blue planet on the outer rim of the Milky Way galaxy, third planet from a main sequence sun, way out away from virtually everything in the Milky Way. There are billions of suns in the Milky Way galaxy. Hundreds of millions of them have planets orbiting them. And I would say the odds are pretty good that hundreds of thousands of them are class M planets like Earth. They have liquid water, they have oxygen, they have microbes, and possibly complex life living on them. So when you put these factual observations together, it's kind of redundant, I know, because that is a direct observation. um, One of the things that you figure out is the higher intelligent life goes out seeking what? Areas where they can live, or areas where there's lower intelligent life, or areas where there's higher intelligent life? You see, that's kind of a confusing question. So if the aliens, extraterrestrials, have been on this planet for, say, 100,000 years, well before recorded history from this zenith of mankind, then you have to ask the next question. And the next question is, why? Why are they here on this planet? Okay. They obviously can't live on the surface because we don't have populations of extraterrestrials, living over. They're up there flying around. They're in their ships, and they don't interact with anybody. They don't interact with me, and believe me, my door is open if they want to have a conversation, absolutely open. They don't interact with anybody else, regardless of what claims you have heard from one person who's, breeding babies for the aliens. All that's Feldergarb as far as I'm concerned. No data whatsoever to prove that. Nothing. There have been no hybrids step out on the stage anywhere. They haven't stepped out on television. They haven't stepped out on social media. Hi, I'm a hybrid. Look at my face. You can tell I have eyes the size of pomegranates. No, none of that is here. It doesn't exist. So you have to think to yourself, why are they here? What is their purpose for being here on Earth? They're not propagating. They're not beating us out as far as population. Hell, we breed like rabbits. Maybe they can't. Maybe they can't. Maybe the viruses and bacteria that our DNA has outfitted us to survive and to overcome and to adapt to, maybe it doesn't work for them. Maybe it doesn't work for them. Maybe every time they step off the ship, they get sick and die. And at some point, their leaders say, okay, nobody else off the ship. Everybody stays on the ship or we all die. You go out, you can't come back. You bring back an infection, you wipe out the entire ship. They're smart enough. They're smart. They understand this. I don't care how many generations. They don't have the DNA to adapt to this planet. Our DNA is unique. You remember what God told Adam? Were a lot of things that he said. You remember when Eve was brought to Adam at the end of the sixth day? Right at the end of the sixth day, God brings Eve to Adam. Adam's been here for a whole day, by himself. Well, maybe he's been here with all the animals, naming him. Maybe he was here for 1,000 years, maybe 10,000 years. We don't really know. We don't really know. It says one day, it could be 1,000 years. But at the end of that day, right before Sunday, right before they say, we're going to go rest for a while, we'll be back in a day. It could be 1,000 more years. That's when Eve is brought to him. Here's Eve. What will you call her? And Adam says, well, I just got done naming every animal on the face of the earth. I think I can figure this one out. Her name is Eve. And God asked Adam, why will you name her Eve? And Adam simply said, and a very wise person, a lot of age, ancient of days, says, because she is the mother of all living. And God said, that is correct, because she is the mother of all living. And if you look at the DNA of the human being, the pure human being, it's in everything. It's in cabbage. It's in birds. It's in fish. It's in everything. Human DNA, most of what makes up humans, also makes up the rest of life on this world. That is not the case with aliens. Extraterrestrial life does not have that DNA. They cannot adapt to this world. And if you think, well, we'll just steal eggs from the female, we will fertilize them and we will produce hybrids. Okay, let's say biologically it's possible. Let's say biologically it's possible. Let's say you can take a horse and a fox and breed them together and make an offspring. That's about how different. That's about how different, maybe even more different. But let's say it's possible. So an embryo is formed. Now, we know from the development of an embryo that an embryo is infused with 3 different kinds of memory, right? We know that it is infused with star memory because the matter that's used to build that physical body comes from stars from a certain alignment. They're entangled. The matter is entangled with those stars. So as that body's being built from whatever the mother's eating and using to make that body, it is entangled with the star formations at that time. So there's a star memory built into that body. there's also a chemical memory that's built into that body. That comes from the haploid RNA from the father, the haploid RNA from the mother, put together to make a completely new set of DNA that is a combination of those two chromosome sets. And that's the chemical memory that comes in, the propensity for sports and music and mathematics and hair color and height. And all that is the chemical memory that's infused into that fetus. But we also have a third memory. And that third memory is light memory. This is the life experience, the energetic experience of that spirit and all the lives that it has lived and all the memories that it's accumulated, all the patterns and propensities that it has developed over eons of time, that is infused into that fetus. And so those three forms of memory are then separated from mother and born. And you spit the amniotic fluid out of your nose, you take your first breath and cry, and you are now a sovereign being with those three types of memory. And the rest of your life, you're trying to remember who you are. You're trying to remember who you are. But those three forms of memory, that spirit is compatible with the DNA of that human body. So, assuming that a hybrid is made, that this fox and horse can come together and make a hybrid, they have the technology to create a zygote from their sperm and the female's egg, even though they come from a different world. Let's just assume that it's possible. Who gets the body? Where does the light come from for that body? How can they be sure when they breed an alien hybrid? Well, let's assume a hybrid is breedable, so let's not call it a hybrid. When they create this new life form, how can they be sure it's their life experience, their form of light that gets that body? How can they be sure it's not a human that gets that body? Now, we can assume, we can make a lot of assumptions because we're scientists and we can do this. One of the things that we can assume is that there's only one repository for souls, right? There's only one repository for souls, and that repository has two types of souls. It has demons and it has children that are qualified to come through the well of souls and be born into a physical body here on this planet. Because you remember there was enmity put between the seed of the woman and Lucifer. So Lucifer / Satan could not just take anybody he wanted. Woman gets pregnant, the light memory comes in. That light memory, that light intelligence comes from the well of souls. It's a legal, authorized child of God that's going to be born here on this planet. Assuming that the DNA of that body is compatible with that occupation. Now, obviously, Lucifer injected his DNA into the progeny of the human race. We're not really sure how that happened, but we're sure that it happened, right? Cain was born, Cain was allowed to live, Cain was allowed to breed, and Lucifer's DNA is now loose in the human race. And we've gone to war with them many times, and wiped them out, down to a small number who run off and hide. Kind of like Al-Qaeda, kind of like ISIS. We think we have them whipped, and damn it, 5 years later, we hear their name again. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. So assuming there's only one repository for legitimate souls to come to the earth, there's also a repository for not legitimate souls, for demons to come to earth. But the thing about demons is they can only get to earth one of two ways. One is they have to kick the current occupant out, or the current occupant has to say, I've had enough of this. I'm going to take a back seat. You can have my body, right? I give you permission. I let you in. So the demon takes over that body, and there are two is the demon and ripping the first apart and doesn't care if the first one is miserable all the days of its life and ends up taking its own life. The demon is tickled as he can be. That's exactly what he wants. He's just going to go get another one. But I think it's a limited supply, depending on the day, the age, and all that stuff. I think it's a limited supply. What they really want, what Lucifer really wants, why he came to Earth and beguiled Eve in the first place, is they want the body. They want the fetus. They want to be born a demon in the flesh in this world. And I think that's what the aliens want to. If there are extraterrestrials here, what they really, really want is for their seed, their light memory, to be born in the flesh here on this planet. And I don't think, based upon the rules that I know, I don't think they come from through the well of souls. I think they come another way. That's why God destroyed the world with the flood. Because the population got so large that Noah and his folks could not take care of it. So God wiped them out. Back down to whatever the remnant was at the time, which is to be literal, a tenth of the earth. 90% of the earth was wiped out. So if you think about the universe looking at this whole process, one of the reasons why, if we can assume that extraterrestrial life is here on this earth, why they come here. If you ask them, why did you come here? Why did you come all the way out here? Why did you come out here? Hundreds of light years from the nearest complex of stars. Why would you come out here? It ain't because of you. It ain't because of the weather. It's not because of the ocean. It's not because of the beaches. They came here because this is the world where the Son of Man, Jesus Christ, was born. In all the universe, nobody knew where that was going to be. And the assumption was, I think, among all demons and angels, is it would be some grand and glorious world at the peak of its uh, technological development. It would have to be. It would have to be a grand, glorious, peaceful world full of justice, right? That's where the Son of Man would be born. Of course, lest he dash his foot against a stone, lest he uh, be hungry, lest he be unknown. But no, that's not what happened. He was born in a meridian of time, in dust and dirt and ignorance, and never traveled more than 60 miles from his own birthplace. And he walked or rode a burro to get anywhere he was going to go. I think it had the whole world, the whole universe thrown off guard. Why in the world would the God, the creator of the universe, send his son to be born in such a dismal place without even potable water? Why would he do that? And the fact that he did come here and he did live his life for 30 years and then started his mission and managed to live even in the presence of the old world order, the Sadducees, the Pharisees, the Romans. He managed to live during that time and run his mission for 3 years before they killed him. Now, true, he came to this earth to be sacrificed for the sins of the world. That's the story we believe. That's the story we read in the Gospels. But let's not talk about that process, because we're going to talk about that in March of this next year. We're talking about the birth of the Savior. That remarkable event, the fact that the Savior came here to be born, is why the aliens, the extraterrestrials, come to this planet. As soon as they knew that he was going to be born here, they came. But they did not evidently come to conquer, because if they did, they could have easily. When we were not able to fly, we didn't have steel, we didn't even know really how to handle fire. It would have been simple for extraterrestrial life to come and dominate this world and keep us as, gold mining slaves forever, forever. We would have never been free. If we even tried to be free, they would have just vaporized us. But that's not why they came. It's not why they came. There's more than that. JCW, there's more than 20 years of the Master's life missing from the Bible. You'll recall that when Joseph and Mary decided to leave Bethlehem, they were in Bethlehem at the time. We know for a fact, from historical fact, that Jesus was a little less than 2 years old, right? He was a little less than 2 years old, because when Herod sent his soldiers to Bethlehem to take all the boys 2 years and younger and kill them, that the reason was to try to capture the king of the Jews in that group. And what kind of soldier does that? Well, the perfect soldier, the soldier that would follow orders no matter what. Go to Bethlehem, find every boy less than 2 years of age, and run a sword through the middle of his chest. I don't know any modern day soldier that would do that. They would say, no, 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 that's an illegal order. I'm not following that. But not Roman soldiers. Hell no, they just went and did it. But before the Romans got there, Joseph and Mary got the word, and they left. And they went to where? Where did they go? They went to Egypt. That's correct. They went to Egypt. Where in Egypt? They went to Abydos. They went to Abydos. And I've been to Abydos, Egypt, many times. And what happens in Abydos? In Abydos, Seti, one of the pharaohs in his dynasty, sent his land development guys, engineers, out to look for a structure that was about 7,000 years old. It was called the Osirian. The Osirian. It was a place of, well, magic and power, and it was old, and it was rumored to have been built upon a special body of water in the middle of the desert, which it was. Now, it took them many years, but they did find the Osirian buried in the desert. They exhumed it, brushed away all the sand, uncovering the Osirian. And then Seti commissioned the building of his temple on top of the Osirian. I mean, like right on top of it, almost incorporating it into it. And you could see a massive difference between the architecture and the structure of the Osirian and the architecture and structure of Seti's temple. Huge difference. Huge difference. Now, both are spectacular, but the Syrian is a marvel of engineering, like unbelievable. This red granite, 60-ton blocks lifted into place and then key locked into place. Key locked into place. Like stone was fit into stone and then lowered down. No way it could have been done with the technology of the day. So we think. So we think. And what did they do at Seti's temple? And we've got about 5 minutes left in this hour. I'll try to sneak this in. But what did they do at Seti's temple? Seti's temple was carved in order to celebrate the resurrection of Osiris by Isis. Okay? See if I can grab this number without tipping anything over. So, yeah. Isis searched the world for the body parts of Osiris, which had been drawn and quartered and separated to the four corners of the earth, with his genitals being put in a fifth place nobody even knew about. Isis commissioned the hunting down of all those body parts, and she brought those body parts together and resurrected Osiris. That's what they celebrate in the temple of Abydos. It was all carved on the walls. You could see the whole thing. And believe me, this is wormhole technology all laid out on the walls. And someone who's familiar with astrophysics can read this story on the walls of Abydos. This is where Jesus was raised from the time he was less than 2 years old to the time he left and traveled to the east. So, what did he see every year at Abydos? He saw the Passion Play. He saw the resurrection of Osiris acted out in symbolism over and over and over, year after year after year. He was totally familiar with the resurrection process of Osiris by Isis. And so when he got to this point where he decided to leave, and he went to the east and both taught and learned, and if you go to Tibet, you can see some of the record of this white bearded god that came to the east and both taught and learned from the masters. When he was finished with those travels, he was about 29 years old. He walked all the way back to Jerusalem, to Jordan, where he met his cousin, John the Baptist. That's when he shows back up in the region. A totally changed being at this point. And when he arrives, his cousin, John, is so blown away that he begs to be baptized by Jesus. But Jesus says, no, 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 no. Suffer it to be so, to fulfill all righteousness. You have to baptize me. You have the Levitical priesthood. You are authorized. You have to baptize me. And that's exactly what happened. John the Baptist baptized Jesus, and then the heavens opened. The dove came down and lit upon him. The people that were surrounding him, who were in tune with the Spirit, heard the words, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear ye him." Most of them were Zoroastrians, which were immediately converted because their whole religion had been built up for that exact moment in time. And when that moment in time happened, they were converted just like that, in mass. Very few Zoroastrians stayed in the Zoroastrian religion. They became Christians right away. And that is when Jesus' mission started. Now, we'll cover a little bit more of that after the break, and you'll be all caught up with where we are with Christmas. All right, let's see here. Well, sorry, that's where the pattern came from. Jesus is not Jesus of Nazareth. He is Jesus of Abydos. All right, let's take a quick break, and we will be back after this. Make sure that my music is going to play here. I can't even see that it's on. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Hold on. We should still be connected. Yeah, we are still connected. So I'm just listening for the music. Should be starting any second.
5 p.m. Eastern
There we
Time
go.
on Studio A. Because we come to this table of life to learn in the best possible way and experience this gift of life from our mutual Creator. So let's learn together and build our best future with Conversations with Eagle Flower. Wednesdays, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, Studio A on Revolution Radio.
Join Revolution Radio every Sunday at 5 p.m. Studio B for Strange Universe. The Strange Universe.
Are you interested in the paranormal, murder mystery, real natural law? Do you enjoy interviews with amazing guests? Then join Crypt Rick every Monday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Revolution Radio. Studio A, freedomslips.com. Crypt Rick's I've Been Thinking. Welcome to the Crypt.
The rooster has crowed out the opening bars of a new day. You've dragged yourself out of bed. You turn on your device. You want to know what's going on in the world. But you're hungry for a topical show that serves up those breakfast headlines just that little bit differently. Do you like your early morning news the way you like your eggs over easy? Served with slathers of salsa-like sass? Do you like those first headlines of the day to deliver a punch as powerful as that first cup of joe? Join Mitchell Bupp at his breakfast table for Revolution in the Morning, where he will digest, dissect, and dismantle those new day's national and global news headlines with razor-sharp relish. Find Mitchell here at revolution.radio every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday morning, 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern on Studio B.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Any commercial advertising you may hear in this program is of the sole discretion and benefit of the host of whose program you are listening to. Revolution Radio does not endorse any commercial products, nor does it accept monetary compensation for on-air advertising of commercial products, nor will it ever. We are and shall remain 100% listener supported. Any product advertising on this program are considered used at higher risk, and Revolution Radio shall not be held liable for any claims or damages received from any product advertised within this program. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Thanks for hanging in there while we took that short break. Now back to America Free Radio with host Brooks Agnew here at Revolution Radio.
Wow. We love Revolution Radio. We love being part of the program here and being part of the great audience of Revolution Radio that listens by audio. You're all listening by video, so you have a little bit of an advantage because you can see what we're doing. But you that are listening by audio, pay close attention because we're going to go to my website, which is brooksagnew.com, brooksagnew.com. All we're going to do is click on this button right here because we can do this for those of you watching. And we'll be going to my website, You'll know you're in the right place because it says, I'm Brooks Agnew. There's my picture. That's the right place. Okay. Right there on the front are two blue buttons. One of the blue buttons says, Get my free newsletter. You know what to do, right? Just click there, give me your name and your email address. Boom, you're in. The other is Ivan and fenbendazole without a prescription. Now, those of you that have heard about the great benefits of ivermectin and fenbendazole, you can now do something about it. You can get it for yourself with no prescription at wholesale prices. This is where you get it. Simply follow the instructions here where it says buy now. It can't be any more plain than that. For the ivermectin or the fenbendazole, you can get them both at the same time, and you can order them at the same time. You can take them at the same time. And reportedly, there are amazing benefits fighting cancer and other things, reducing the size of tumors and things like that, and also keeping yourself free of any viruses. I have not had the flu or anything like unto it since I started taking it 4 years ago. And we've been through hell, haven't we not? We've been through virus hell since then. If you get COVID and you get sick and you're laying around for 2 weeks with aches and pains and it coming out of both ends, you're a dumbass because the cure is here. All you have to do is take it, and it will reduce your viral load 90% within hours. Within hours. Believe me, 58,000 people, 58,000 customers cannot be wrong. I get mail every single day from people that say, Oh my God, I can't believe how much better I feel. I can't believe my grandmother has not been sick in 2 years. My grandfather was sick and we thought we were going to lose him. I gave him ivermectin and boom, he was back to his old self in 2 days. This is the stuff. 99% pure. The certificate of analysis is right there on the website. All you have to do is click on it and learn. The other product is called True Niagen. Now, the other product that you've heard about a lot on, I don't know, TikTok, Instagram, blah, 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 is NAD, right? NAD. Well, the stars, the movie stars, they can afford this stuff. You can take NAD directly in large doses, and you can overcome the body's ability to destroy that with the stomach acid, and you can be 70 years old and look like you're 50. Or if you don't have $10,000 a month to spend on stuff like that, you can get True Niagen. Now, True Niagen is synthesized from milk, and it's totally natural. What it does is it tells your body to make NAD again, like you used to when you were 40, like you used to when you were 35. So you make the NAD feeds your mitochondria, your heart, your brain, your skin, your eyes, your muscles. You get energy like you had when you were 40 or 50 years old. Your skin smooths out. I have not aged at all since 2018 when I started taking True Niagen. I swear by it. All my friends swear by it. I have thousands of people that listen to this program that take True Niagen every single day, and they will never stop because it does what it says it will do. All right. And the other is Insulis. I take this every day. I have actually my second bottle is now on my desk. I put about 5 or 6 drops under my tongue a couple times a day, and it lowers my insulin resistance. This is a special tincture that is put together by Abetu Naturals. It is unique and it is patented, and it helps more than my doctors want to know. When they say, how do you do that? How do you lower your A1C numbers back down below 5? Well, this is how I do it. They go, well, I've never heard of Insulis. I say, well, no shit, because it's not made by Big Pharma. It's a tincture made by a biochemist. Figure it out. Try it. I have people that swear by it already. Their A1C numbers come down. Even people that don't know what they're taking, they have a loved one or a child that's giving it to an elderly parent, and they go have their A1C checked, and my God, their A1C is down. They don't have to prick their finger anymore. This is the stuff. This is the stuff that does it. And don't forget about Himalaya toothpaste. If you're still buying Crest and Colgate and Aquafresh, I don't know what you're doing. Those things are chock full of fluoride. Fluoride is no good for the human body. It's no good for the pineal gland. This is fluoride-free toothpaste. I haven't put fluoride in my body in probably 15 years. And it's because I use products like this. It's the same cost as Aquafresh or Crest or Colgate, but no fluoride. And you'll love the taste and you'll love how white it makes your teeth. All I'm saying is give it a try. And don't forget about Blue Boost. If you know about the benefits of methylene blue, then you can appreciate Blue Boost. It's a capsule form of the same thing. So you don't have to stain your teeth and worry about dribbling around your white carpet where your wife will actually kill you. Take the Blue Boost. It gives you that laser focus so you can stay on those projects you're trying to finish. Okay, let's get back to it because we have stuff we have to do here. Okay, so what we were talking about before the break was the birth and early life of Jesus Christ. And my case is that if there is extraterrestrial life here on this planet, as unattractive as we are, this is the reason why they came. They came here because Jesus Christ was born here. It's sort of like, I don't know, space tourism, maybe. Or maybe they're actually trying to be spiritual beings. You remember in the book of Genesis and in Deuteronomy, you read about giants. You remember those, the offspring of the Nephilim? The Nephilim had offspring with human females and literally ripped their bodies apart in childbirth, literally exploded their bodies as these Nephilim were born, these giants were born. And it became so corrupt that God had to end up destroying the world with water because their DNA was about to undo everything that God had worked on to put this planet here for this purpose. So I don't think that God would let extraterrestrials take over our world in that way. I don't think they would. If there are extraterrestrials here, they're in very small numbers. And maybe they're trying to do the same thing the giants were trying to do. You remember in the book of Enoch, you remember when the giants came to Enoch and they said, look, yes, we're big and we're strong, but we're also peaceful and we work with the humans, right? We build stuff. We build walls and temples and all this stuff, and we're good. And we want the opportunity for salvation. Please, please, and if you read the book of Enoch, this is what you hear in a nutshell. Please go to the Father and ask him if we can be saved. And so Enoch said, well, okay, I'll go. And so Enoch would go speak to God face to face because he was that kind of guy. He had that kind of purity about him, and explain to him the plight of the giants, that the giants are actually helping us. They've done a lot of great stuff. They've protected us. They built walls. They've rerouted rivers for us. They've built temples. I mean, they're really good people. Don't you think they have the right to be saved? And God said, no. No, they can't be saved. Why? Because they're not my creation. Because that's not the purpose of this earth. Okay? When the Savior comes and sacrifices himself for the sins of mankind, the sins of the universe, it's not for these beings. These beings came here the wrong way, and they can't be saved. So Enoch went back to the giants and explained it to them several times, and they didn't like it. They didn't like it. And giants didn't age well. Like we age, we get hobbly and maybe lose our memory a little bit and, dribble our oatmeal down the front of our face and then we pass away. But giants, because of the gravity of Earth and the fact that they're made from the same stuff we're made from, they get crippled. They get crippled. They get paralyzed from the waist down. And they don't like it. They don't want to be invalids dependent upon humans to feed them. It's not in their nature. And so what they would do, according to the book of Enoch, is they would walk into the sea and drown themselves. When they started feeling these infirmities come on, they would simply walk into the sea and drown themselves. You need to read the book. Read the book. Read The Arc of Millions of Years, all 4 volumes. You'll see the factual bibliography is there. So the aliens, the extraterrestrial life, we can maybe make the assumption that they live extremely long lives. I mean, think about it. If an alien is going to get into a ship, even if it's a large ship, and he's going to travel 40, 50, 400, 500 light years to get to Earth, he's got to have an extremely long lifespan. And I don't know how they do it, because I would be insane after a couple of months. You can't sleep the whole way. You have to do something, right? Well, there's no ship big enough to keep generations of humans occupied while they're traveling from one planet to another. And not only that, if you're born on this world, you're born at one gravity, right? One gravity. If you're born in space, you're born at 0 gravity. And the next generation, and the next generation. So when you arrive at the planet that you're supposed to now populate, you can't, because you can't get off the floor. You've weighed nothing for 10 generations, nothing. And now you weigh 220 pounds. You can't get off the floor. Your bones can't take it. Your organs are crushed. You understand what I'm saying? You can't just go from one world through a weightless environment for a period of time and show up at another world and expect to survive. Add to that the complexity of millions and millions of viruses and bacteria that we cough and breathe and spit and slime and poop and pee every single day. It doesn't bother us because our DNA is a wrecking yard of dealing with those kinds of things. Their DNA is not. Their DNA is not made for that. So they come here and they're not immune to anything. The common cold kills them. Eczema kills them. Polio kills them. Stuff we have already built up immunities to wipes them out. Why do you not see alien conferences? 40, 50 ships landing in the middle of the desert, and they get out and they have a Burning Man celebration. And hey, let's invite some humans and have some real fun. You don't see it because it will kill them. They live someplace else. They live under the sea. They live inside the planet. They live in the air, but they don't live among us. They can't do it. And if you say, oh, well, they're hybridizing so that they can adapt to that, they're taking on some of our DNA. Great argument, but who gets the body? It's not an alien intelligence, right? What if it's not an alien intelligence? What if it's a human intelligence that takes that body? You understand what I'm saying? It's not one of them. It's not one of them. I promise you, a soul will not come through the well of souls and take an alien body. That's not the way it's set up. When the human spirit comes into the human fetus, it is matched up by design. It's called enmity. It is maybe I don't understand, but it's God put in place to stop that very thing. It prevents the alien or the demon from being born in human skin. Now, does that mean that a demon cannot be born in human skin? I think not. I think that it means demons can be born in human skin, but the DNA of the human skin has to be Luciferian. It has to be at least enough concentration of Cain's DNA so that that demon can be born in the flesh. because you can't convince me. I have too much factual evidence. You can't convince me that demons are not born in the flesh on earth. And I'm talking demons that cannot be saved. They're not from the well of souls. They're not legitimate. They're not of the 2/3 of the host of heaven that won the war in heaven. They're of the 1/3 that lost the war. They're not supposed to be here. They're not authorized to be here. But because the DNA of that human body is so corrupt, so wicked, so evil with the Luciferian DNA, there's a match. And they're able to go around the well of souls and make it to that body. And they are born evil. They can never be saved. They're born evil, and on their mind is rape, pillage, burn, and murder from the first time they learn to walk. They are evil in their bones. They're evil from their heart. Nobody taught them to be evil. They are pure evil because that's where their soul came from. And they're alive, and they're here on this earth. And that population is growing by leaps and bounds. Why? Because the righteous, those people who are repenting or in the act of repenting, that's what the righteous are, not perfect by any means. No. But they're moving in the right direction. Those are the righteous. The righteous, they're not having kids. They're having 1.65 kids per couple. The demons are having 5, 6, 7 kids per couple. And the women are oppressed and raped and kept ignorant and enslaved and bagged up in a black sack because they're the sole possession of that breeder. And the breeder will have 1, 2, 4, 5 different women that he's impregnating at the same time, and they have a mission. And that mission is to take that DNA and propagate it as far and wide as they can, because their plan is for that 1/3 of the host of heaven that was cast out, the 1/3 that lost the war in heaven. The plan is for that 1/3 to occupy more physical bodies than the 2/3 and destroy all of them. They call them infidels, but it's worse than that. It's something that was classified by Lucifer as something not worthy to live. Only the enslavers are entitled to live. And Merry Christmas to you all too. I'm just telling you because this Christmas is so pivotal, so important. It's so important that you understand these principles. You cannot go forward from this day forward thinking that the rest of the world, all they need is enough money to get by, and they're suddenly going to be happy, and they're suddenly going to be peaceful, and they're suddenly going to love their neighbor as themselves. Because it isn't that way. It isn't that way. Wickedness is here on the earth. And that's why Jesus Christ was born on this earth. He was born on this earth. He attracted all the interest of the universe to this planet. That's why extraterrestrials are here. If they are here, they are here for that reason. They're not here because of you. They're damn sure not here because of me. They're not here for the water. They're not here for the beaches. They're not here for the weather. They are here because Jesus Christ was born here. That's why they are here. Now, they may be here to bask in his glory or the pastness of it, but they may be also here to destroy it. And I think the latter, because that's what I see around the world. I once thought that there were people of integrity in our government, that there were people that were here to serve and represent their constituency. And I trusted them. I've been to Washington. I saw how hard they worked. I trusted them. For a long time, I trusted Marjorie Taylor Greene. I thought she was great. She stood for the right causes. She wouldn't bend. She got kicked off all her committees, and so they created a monster, giving her free time to do whatever she wanted to do. But look at her. Look at her. What do you see? You see a woman that came in with a net worth of $700,000. That's a formidable. It's a good net worth, especially for a congresswoman. She came in to represent her people. That's what she said. Well, she's quitting. Next month, she's leaving. Her last bill that she just got on the floor and got it passed in the House. And guess how much she's worth? She's not been there that long. $24 million. She went from $700,000 to $24 million. Who can you trust? Who can you trust? Look at Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson is somebody barely anybody trusts. Oh, he sounds good. He looks good. He combs his hair perfectly. He's got a straight look in his eyes. But he has not accumulated wealth. He does not do that trading. He doesn't play that game. He doesn't play that game. He doesn't have a chauffeur. He doesn't have any of the stuff that the other. He doesn't worry about his personal safety. He doesn't have a $10 million security team guarding every time he goes out of the house like Chuck does. He doesn't have that. That's why I trust Mike Johnson. Is it hard to get things done? Is it hard to bring the two sides to agree on it? Hell yes, it's hard to do that. And maybe Mike Johnson has to make a lot of compromises to make that stuff work. A lot of negotiations to make that stuff work. Yes, Marjorie Taylor Greene does have a construction business, but where do you think she got the contracts? Where do you think the contracts came from? Ask yourself, are any of those contracts that Marjorie Taylor Greene's construction company works on, are any of them government contracts? Bet you they are. Bet your bottom dollar they are. And Boyd Oxdew says, trust no one but God. That's a tall order. That's a tall order because there are people in this world who believe that they can turn their life over to God and God is in charge. God has a plan. God has everything under control. That's just not true. That's just not true. Part of the wonder of the human experience is there ain't no plan. The plan, if one does exist, is the one you create. It's the one you create. That's why you were allowed to have a mortal life. That's why you craved the opportunity to have a mortal life, because you are in charge of your own creation. You're in charge of your own creation. You are 100% responsible for your own life condition. Have you ever sat around sometimes, just wondered, I mean, damn, how did I get here? How did I arrive at this spot in time doing this thing in this place? And you start running it backwards in your mind. Oh, yeah, that's right. I remember now because I was in Colorado and I decided to move to Arkansas. I was in Idaho and I decided to move to South Carolina. Yeah, I remember now. And I came here and I was looking for something. And I remember getting off the freeway right over there, as a matter of fact. And I drove over here and I saw this subdivision. And I said, yep, that's the one I want. That's how I ended up here. That's how I made. How did I meet this person? How did I fall? How did you ever ask somebody that? How did you all meet? Oh, it was the strangest thing, actually. I mean, sometimes now today people say, "Well, I met online," but in the old days it was like, "Well, I was having breakfast at this restaurant, and this fine-looking waitress came up and served me, and I all of a sudden just knew I'm going to make that woman my wife." That's how they met? Are you crazy? That's how they met? Oh, stranger stories than that. I had a car accident, ran into this woman, and I knew the instant I saw her, I got to make that woman my wife. Hell, I mean, strange stories, right? How did I get here? Well, there might have been a series of inexplicable events, but I'll bet you every single move, every single step was a choice you made. It was a choice you made. You decided not to go to school. You decided to have children before you graduated college. You decided to get married when you were 18 or 20 or 22 years old before you graduated. You made those choices. You're responsible for your own life condition. And I hear the bitching and griping on social media every damn day. And I want to shout back at those people. No, 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 no. It ain't my fault. It ain't my fault. It ain't Trump's fault. It ain't the governor's fault. It ain't the political party's fault. It's your doing. And if you want to change it, you are totally empowered to change it. Doesn't matter where you are or what you're doing or what you're not doing, what you're earning or what you're not earning. You can choose to change it. You're totally 100% in charge of your own life condition. Unless you were born with a handicap like you're blind. But even then, there are things that you could do to overcome that handicap. I'm just saying, and I'm making the case here, God is not in charge. God doesn't have a plan for each one of us. The plan was to get you here. The plan was to create a system, design a process by which a spirit could be bonded to a body. And this body is not what the spirit is encased in. I hate to break it to you. This body is not what the spirit is encased in. You think it is because that's the way you interpret our universe. Ow, it hurts. Oh, I'm hungry. Oh, I have urges. You think it is, but it's not. It's the other way around. The body is encased in the spirit. Oh, you didn't think about that, did you? No, the body is encased in the soul, in the spirit itself. The body is a peripheral, like a printer, like a monitor, like a transducer, a thermometer, a light sensor. That's what the body is. The body has roughly 5 senses in some level of repair or disrepair. Obviously, you can see, you can hear, you have this wonderful chemical analysis process called taste and smell, and you can feel. I mean, you can sense temperature differences a fraction of a degree, right? You have these tremendously sensitive infrared transducers in your hands and your face. You can sense things, cold and heat, and you have way more cold sensors in your fingers than you do heat. Why? For tactile, so you can feel the shape of things, and you can make the shape of things, and you can play, and you can paint, and you can dig, and you can fly. There's all kinds of things that you can do with this human body, but it is a peripheral. The spirit is much larger. It is much larger. It is immense. It goes beyond the earth. You can sense the moon. You can sense the sun. You can sense other stars. It isn't hard to do. Why? Because your spirit is enormous. It is immense. And it is not encased in this physical body. Your physical body is encased in the spirit. And once you learn that perspective, you see, I could sweep all of this out of my way. I could sweep poverty and depression and oppression and loneliness. I can sweep it all out of my way because I am a unique spirit that has been alive for eons of time. I have memories from other worlds, not even in this bodily form. And if I can bring those to bear on this point at this time, and I'm not even going to call it now because I don't even think there is such a thing as now. Seriously, I don't think there is such a thing as now. I don't know where it is. I don't know how fast it goes. And if I can't tell those two things, by God, it doesn't exist. Now is a myth. It's a fallacy. It doesn't exist. In fact, the broader that you expand your awareness, the less now matters. now becomes not a laser pointer, now becomes a floodlight, now becomes a day. As far as the light of the sun can reach from horizon to horizon, that's now. Everything in the universe for all time and all eternity is local to you. Now, what the hell is now? All those people that are out there preaching to you, oh, now stay in the moment. Now is the only thing that matters. It's all false doctrine. It's all false doctrine. The future, the past, and what you call the present is all blended into one for a spirit. A spirit senses all of this. It gives us ultimate perspective. And if you could tap into all the experience you have, that real light memory part of you, not the chemical memory, not the star memory, those are small parts of you, your physical body for sure. The light memory. Light goes on forever. It comes all the way from source. But remember, when you were carved out of source, I don't know if you can remember that or not, but when you were carved out of source, you were carved in pairs by a square root function. That means two identical spirits were divided and they were absolutely equal at that point. From that moment, the two began to diverge. The experiences were different. One went one way, even if you both went in the same direction, which is possible. Twin flames can do that. You're still getting different experiences. Maybe one's male, one's female, or one becomes male and one becomes female. One becomes more male and one becomes more female. If that is even a thing for early intelligences. The point is that you begin to diverge. And if you take the square root of a square root of a square root of a square root, it does not take many iterations before you approach one. I mean, like the number one. You never quite get to it, but you approach it. It's sort of like take half the distance to the wall and step forward. So you do. Now take half of that distance and step for the wall, and do it again, and do it again, and do it again, and do it again. Well, theoretically, you never reach that wall, but you get damn close. You get really, really close, but you never quite reach it. It's called the asymptote. An asymptote. Mathematically, you approach it, but you cannot cross it. The same thing happens with the square root function, right? Okay, so the square root of 256 is 16, right? And the square root of 16 is 4, right? And the square root of 4 is 2, right? And the square root of 2 is, well, 1 point something, right? And the square root of that is also 1 point something. The square root of that is also 1 point something. And it gets smaller and smaller and smaller, but never quite gets to 1. So pair by pair by pair by pair, they are created in identical square root values. And it's an asymptote. The vast majority of creations of souls, of spirits, is an asymptote. But that's just the beginning. Once you're created, you begin to have mortal lives, and around and around and around you go, not in a circle, in a spiral. And every time you come around, you're higher and higher and higher. And that goes on until what? Until you reach the value of source. You become source. And that takes a different amount of, I guess, iterations for each and every one of us. But no two of us are the same. We have not been the same round. And you see this happen in your life. How many times have you had something happen to you more than once in your life? Oh my God, why am I going through this again? It is slightly different, but it's still the same crap, right? Or you're reading the scriptures and you've read it so many times. My grandmother read it, my mother read it, I'm reading it. But guess what? Today, Today, that scripture means something different. Yes. I bet I've read this 20 times, 30 maybe. How come I never saw that? How come I never saw those words? Why am I having this vision while I'm reading the scriptures? Because your spiral is at a higher level now. Your understanding is at a higher level. You're now beginning to understand, not as the reader, but as the writer of that scripture. Yeah. John, Matthew, Paul, I mean, whoever was writing that had a vision and they wrote it and it stood the test of time. And you read it a dozen times, 5 dozen times. But one time you begin to see what the writer was seeing. And that's when everything changes, right? That's when everything changes. So to say or to believe that there is a plan for everybody, God has a plan for you, is bullshit. It is a deception. It's false doctrine. I hate to break it to you, but that's the truth. Now, if you feel alone and naked right now, like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm here on my own, and what do I do now? I mean, if God isn't in charge, I'm in charge. What the hell do I do now? You're in the right place. You're in the right place. And in fact, if you're asking that question, that is the right question. That's exactly the question the universe loves to answer. And that's when you get out your future book, I call it the future book, the book in which you create your universe and you begin writing. And the first thing you write is, what the hell do I do now? What is going on? And the answer will come. The future book for me is kind of like praying. It really is. I have a stack of them over here. They go back to 1973. Crazy, isn't it? How far I've been writing. But each time I write, it turns into I'm speaking to someone. Yes, of course. But I'm also getting answers back. And I begin to draw. I begin to write. I begin to calculate. And everything that I've ever done with purpose came from those books. I can go back 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and there it is. There's the drawing. Those are the words right there. There's the size. Oh my God, look at that. There's the cone. There's the funnel. Everything that I'm doing now, I spiritually created 5 or 6 years ago. It's not God's plan. It's mine. It's yours. You possess it. You're given that right. Jesus Christ, well, let me put it in a way. When Jesus first came to this world, obviously he was an infant, and then he was a boy, and then he was learning from his environment, from Abydos, from his mother, from his stepfather. He was learning. And then he left and traveled and visited the ancient masters and the Tibetans, and he learned more. And as he learned, he began to give him the tools to see further and do further. And we went to John the Baptist. He was baptized, but that wasn't the end of it, was it? No, he went to the desert, didn't he? He went to the desert and he fasted. Remember, 40 days, 40 nights, and all the temptations that came to him. And what happened at the end of that? Oh, you don't remember. Hebrews chapter 5. Hebrews chapter 5. Read it. What happened was Melchizedek came to him. Yeah, the power of an endless life. The priesthood after the holy order of God. Melchizedek, that guy, the guy that was Noah's brother's son, okay, Noah's nephew, I guess you want to call him, who was taken off the planet by Gabriel, brought back. Melchizedek comes to Jesus and gives him the Melchizedek priesthood. Yeah, gives him the Melchizedek priesthood in a translated body. It's right there in the scripture. Thou art a priest forever after the holy order of Melchizedek. Boom. Now, he still isn't the Christ. He's the high priest. And he goes and gives the high priesthood to Peter, James, and John. You remember that on the Mount of Transfiguration? Gives it to them by the same method, laying on of hands. So when did he become Jesus Christ? He became Jesus Christ on the cross. That's how he became Jesus the Christ. You remember the question? Did Jesus ask Peter, "Whom say ye that I am?" He asked everybody in the room, "Peter, whom say ye that I am?" Thou art the Son of God. Thou art Jesus Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus said, "Simon Bar-Jonah, no man has told you this. I didn't tell you this. You learned that through the Holy Ghost, through revelation. And that's the rock upon which I will build my church." Your testimony that you just said just now, you got that on your own. I didn't tell you that. That's when Jesus became the Christ. It was a long process. And there's only one. And I think that's the reason aliens come to this earth. That's just my opinion. I haven't paid much attention to the chat room. I've kind of been in my own space here. Thank you, Rob. Yeah, I appreciate that very much. How did I get to Tibet? It was 2007. I was taking classes from Maureen St. Germain. She mentioned, I think I was in my second level with her, or maybe it was my third level. I'd already done Drunvilla Melchizedek, and I was taking the second or maybe third class from Maureen St. Germain, advanced classes in meditation. And she mentioned that she was going to Tibet and she had a cancellation. One of the people put their deposit down, which was not refundable. And would I take advantage of that deposit and come up with the rest of the money and go to Tibet? And I said, yes, I just committed right there. Boom. Financially, it was a little bit of a burden, but oh, hell, the actual trip itself was not a vacation, let me tell you. We started at 11,500 feet and went up from there. So that's how I made it there. I think I spent 8 days on the Upper Tibetan Plateau. And I think the highest I went was 18,500 feet. That was the highest I went. And no, there isn't much oxygen there. But I took pictures and made videos and learned a lot. And I saw a lot of paintings and a lot of renderings of somebody that looked like Jesus who had visited the ancient Tibetan Buddhists. And when I made my way to the bottom of the Potala, which no one I have ever known has done, just me and Jose Valadez and Gary were the only 3 souls on earth that got through that chain door in modern times. And when we stepped out onto the floor in the basement of the Potala, that's Potola, Potala or Potala, there on the floor was a giant swastika. And in the middle of the swastika was a big chunk of turquoise, probably 9 inches in diameter. And I asked our Tibetan guide, who spoke very good English, what the heck is this doing here on the floor? Why is there a swastika on the floor? I mean, this goes back to the year 646. This is way before, Adolf Hitler or Nazism or any of that. And he said, that is not a swastika. That is a representation of the Milky Way galaxy. That's the spinning galaxy, and the blue turquoise is Earth. That's the way they looked at the universe. That's why Adolf Hitler adopted that symbol. Not kidding. That's where he got it. That's where he got it. So I learned a lot. I learned a lot about transdimensional travel, about crystal resonation, the power of pure metals, and using that to communicate with other times and other places. I learned a lot. And I saw things that no other human on the face of the earth alive today has seen. I took pictures of it. It's in my book, The Arc of Millions of Years, volume 2, I think. Or maybe it was volume 1. No, it was volume 2. And then I talked about it again in volume 3. And by the way, that's where the Birth Trilogy came from. The Birth Trilogy came from my discoveries in volume 3 of The Arc of Millions of Years. You can find the book. Volume 3 of The Arc of Millions of Years is on my website, brooksagnew.com. You have to go under Kindle books, and that's where it is. And one of these days, I'm going to finish the audiobook of that because it's quite compelling. But the Birth Trilogy is the action adventure story of the lessons that I learned in Tibet, turned into a story. So that's where it's at, Laurel Flower. Well, thank you very much, JCW. I mean, it's kind of a different Christmas message. It is. And if I had any gift to give you that you could really take forward with you, something you could physically say, this may be one of the most valuable things anybody's ever given me. It is the lesson that this whole thing, the creation of the universe, the creation of Earth, the creation of star memory and chemical memory and light memory, and the ability for the human body to be a peripheral, a physical peripheral, so we could sense this third dimension. That was the plan. That was the plan. Don't get trapped in the third dimension. Okay? It isn't all there is, but it is very important. Don't count out this physical life. Don't say, oh, hell, I can't wait to die and get off this stupid planet. And by the way, I'm never reincarnating again. Don't be a fool. Don't be a fool. Because the 2/3 of the host of heaven fought that war to come here. We fought that war so that we could be physical, so we could create life in our own image, so we could have a physical life to experience the third dimension. That's why we fought the war. And by the way, that's why the demons fight with everything they have to displace us, because they want this too. And if there is extraterrestrial aliens here on the planet, it's because they want it, just like the giants, the Nephilim, the Watchers, the Anunnaki. That's why they came, because they want what we have. But we can't give it to them, and they can't take it. That's the plan. That's the plan. All right, Earth Explorers. Wow. I thank you so much for the journey tonight. You've been part of it. I have been speaking directly to you. Directly to you. Let me just check Foxhole really fast and see who's out there. Oh, wow. Yeah, a lot of people in Foxhole. Thanks, guys, for coming. Fanny, Space Cookie. I appreciate you guys more than you know. Yes. Oh, yeah, okay, so Minnesota's undergoing the Stockholm Syndrome. Maybe. Maybe you're right about that. I don't know. Seems like we should be able to wake them up, though, because I mean, I used to live in East Grand Forks, which is barely in Minnesota, but I thought Minnesotans had more on the ball than that. I'm disappointed in them. I don't know about the modern day giants, Laurel Flower. I'm looking around. I don't see them. You're welcome, Chitaka Dave and Old Dog. Thank you so much. Yeah. No, I'm doing fine. I had the cardio version. I don't know if any of you know what that is, but sometimes your heart gets out of rhythm. It doesn't know if it's beating one way or the other way, and your ejection rate, that's the amount of blood your heart's actually pumping, goes way down, and you get weak. And you get like, oh my gosh, I can't move out of my own tracks. Well, they have a method called the cardio version. It's basically where they put an electrical patch on your chest, an electrical patch on your back. They put you under, and then like jumper cables, like they shock the heart with DC, by the way, not AC, DC. And what it does, it's a control alt delete for the heart. Boom, shit, and then it starts again. And this time the rhythm is all the A rhythms are cleared away, and the proper rhythm of the muscle returns. So you go from 128, 135 beats per minute down to 70. And instead of all over the place, it's boom, 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 boom. And so today I went golfing, 18 holes. My legs are a little sore, but I feel great. So don't you worry about me at all. Everything's back to normal, maybe even better than that. I'm going to be back in the gym first of the year. Everything's great. Thank you all for coming tonight. This has been America Free Radio. My program is actually called X Squared Radio. You can see the symbol right there on the wall. This is where the past meets the future. Everything that happens here comes out positive. That's why it says X Squared. That's right. Or even negative numbers that are put in there. -3 times -3 is +9, right? There is one number that you can put into X squared that comes out negative. And you know what it is? It's I. It's I. It's an imaginary number that we use in mathematics to clear away -1 in the radicals. It is the square root of -1, right? Well, that's why I am not actually a part of X Squared Radio. That's why it's not the Brooks Show, because it's about the truth. It's about the truth. That's why it's called X Squared Radio. Everything we do comes out positive. Everything we put into it comes out positive. Even if it's negative stuff we talk about, it comes out positive. So thank you for being part of the program tonight. I believe personally, everything we do will eventually affect the universe. So we should be about doing that on purpose. That's right. Don't let the universe happen to you. I mean, it's going to. Shit happens. Cars break down, people die, robbers come. I get all that. But it's what you do will eventually affect the universe. Do it on purpose. Go out and look for the good in others and help it to grow a little bit every day. And before long, you will have saved the planet. That's how it works. That's how it works. Don't run. Don't shy away from it. And whatever you do, don't say, I'm going to the wilderness. I'm out of here. There is no wilderness anymore. There is no wilderness. We've run as far as you can run. There is no wilderness. Now you have to turn around and draw your sword, and you have to fight for it. And you're going to be fighting evil. So be ready. If you need help, come back here every Wednesday and every Sunday. I'll be here at 8 o'clock. This is Brooks Agnew saying, peace, Earth Explorers. Now go and do great things. All right? We will see you on Wednesday, right here on America Free Radio.
listening to Revolution